Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I don't even know what to say. It has been so long. It is so weird being in front of a camera, even though if you do follow me you will know that I do videos on TikTok and I still post on Instagram, but it has been very long time. I feel like the last time I posted was probably like October, probably even before that. So first of all, I want to say thank you if you guys are a returning viewer and you guys are coming back to see this video. Thank you guys so much for supporting me and continue supporting me even though I've been away for so long. But if you guys are a returning viewer, then you probably clicked this video because you've seen the title. So yeah, if you don't know, my name is Patricia. I am a mum of two, and I started my YouTube channel around 4 years ago, yeah, in 2020. And well and I was really focused on it until I got pregnant, and then it kind of slowed me down, and then I got pregnant, literally had another baby 11 months apart from my first. So then my life even got more busier, and long story short, TikTok just started to become very chaotic for me to do my crazy lifestyle. So I kind of like stopped posting as much, but yeah, I do plan on coming back and doing what I love, and it's this is what I love to do. So yeah, the reason why I am doing this video is, one, because I feel like it would help me, and two, because I feel like it can help someone else, and three, because I started my YouTube channel for I created my YouTube channel because I just always wanted to take people with me in my journey through the goods, the bads, and I feel like I had a lot of ups, and obviously with my dad passing, it was definitely the worst thing I've ever been through till today. And I just feel like I have to be honest with you guys, and I have to relate how I felt and how I'm feeling in order to be able to continue my YouTube videos and to just be me, because I feel like people just need to know. I can't even explain it, but I just feel like I know it's going to help me, and I know that I can relate to a lot of people and a lot of people can relate to me. I'm not the only person in the world feeling this way, and I know that, because it's just the way for me to just have my therapy and let go of a few things. Before I continue this video, I do want to say that if you are someone that's just gone through loss and this might trigger you, or you are going through a process of loss, or if there's any form of way that this video can trigger you, please do not watch it. It will probably have moments that maybe some people don't want to hear, or might might remember you of a trauma you went through. Please don't keep watching it. But yeah, I'm just gonna go straight into the video. I'm trying to get myself composed as well. So in this video, I'm going to tell you guys what happened in the day my dad passed away and how it all went, and yeah, just basically that. So for those who don't know, my dad suffered with a disease called COPD. So it's a disease that is a chronic disease that affects your lungs, whether it's just one or both. My dad's had that for many years, since 2007, due to obviously smoking, but also due to always suffering from bronchitis since he was a little boy. And obviously back in the day, medicine wasn't as it is now, and obviously that didn't help his cause. So all of that was a build up to developing COPD. My dad also went through a phase where he had heart failure, but then he kind of recovered for that a little bit. But then in 2020, COVID, he got a pneumonia, a very bad pneumonia, which we actually didn't think he was going to make it, but he did. He spent literally nearly 3 months in hospital. We couldn't go and see him, nothing. He was there on his own, and he fighted it, he conquered it, and he came out. Then, you know, he went from having oxygen all the time to slowly going back to also he had oxygen at home, which he started off from using it only 12 hours a day to building up until the last year of his life using it 24 hours a day. The oxygen wasn't only just to basically help him breathe, but it was in order for his body to contain enough oxygen for all his organs to help to be used properly and function properly. That's the right word, function properly. And all of that was working well. I mean, he had an okay life. I mean, he wasn't the most physical, obviously, because he couldn't, but he never gave up. He was a strong man. He would constantly do things on his own. He didn't need anyone. Like, even we used to always say to him, Dad, stop a little bit, sit down. Like, he wouldn't. He was, even my daughter sometimes reminds me of him a little bit. So many traits of him that I see in her, because she just doesn't stop. She's so independent. She was always on a go. Like, it just reminds me of him so much. So that's how he was. And then I got married, and then in 2022 September, my dad had a collapsed lung. A collapsed lung can happen from anything of just random to basically having a car accident, and it can happen to anyone. And basically it's when your lungs, something traumatic happens to your body and you get too much basically oxygen. I don't know if I'm explaining it properly, I'm not no professional, but you get too much oxygen inside, and the only way for your body to release that oxygen is basically a hole being bursted into your lungs. That's what happened to my dad. So a hole bursted in my dad's lungs, and that's how he got the collapsed lung. Honestly, even the doctors say that my dad was a miracle. They did never think, the way my dad had his lungs, that he would have survived that. For you guys to bear in mind, my dad's lungs, he was breathing from half a lung. One lung was completely dead, gone. There was no oxygen coming in and out of that lung. And the other lung, he only had half of it. They literally said one day to us that he had lungs, this is when he was about probably 60, he had the lungs of a 95-year-old. That's what they explained to us. So the collapsed lung happened. Sorry, I'm just trying to like incorporate everything. So his collapsed lungs happened. This was in September 20. This was that we didn't even know if he was going to be there in the gender reveal of Letty when I found out I was having a girl, and he literally came out the week before that. I remember praying every night and just saying to God, like, please, please, please let him be here for Letty. Like, I couldn't imagine going through pregnancy and not having him, or going through loss and for pregnancy at the same time. I was already going through such a hard time, because discovering I was pregnant with Letty was really tough. I was already not, like, I wasn't well after having Santi. I didn't realise that. I only realised after having my daughter. But I was just like, I can't, he just can't go now. But I don't know, he was a miracle. He also caught COVID at the same time with a collapsed lung, and he recovered that. Like, we just don't understand how he did it, but I honestly think it was just because he was holding strong to me, Letty. I know this for a fact. I can feel it. And I always said that God gave me Letty so fast from Santi because of my dad meeting her. Because if I was just to have waited another year, like I wanted them to have 2 years gaps, my children, he wouldn't have met her. And I don't think I would have been in the right headspace, for example, now to try and conceive and have a child. So I just know God did that because he was like, no, your dad's going to meet both your babies. But yeah, so he came out literally the week before Letty's gender reveal, and they said to us that he was going to be on full oxygen, and that's how it was the whole year. So from September, like literally my dad was bedbounded, basically. He wouldn't pretty much move anywhere. The only difference is he didn't have a hospital bed yet. He was still in the sofa in the sitting room, which was super uncomfortable for him. He kept getting like ulcers in his legs, really bad ulcers, where it would like be like, you know, like you used to get burnt on your legs because of that, because he just didn't have the right equipment at home. Because of it, he was in and out of hospital all the time. And then January came of 2023, and we made sure he had the most amazing 70th birthday. It's like we kind of knew it was coming to an end bit by bit. The doctors also obviously told us his heart was really, really weak and in a very bad state. And then from January to March, obviously I had Letty. All the birthdays, everything was celebrated was always like at my mum's. Santi turned 1, and from I don't want to talk about this, but from the month Santi turned 1, like my dad was there for Santi's birthday but wasn't even there for his party, because one, I didn't want to do it at my mum's because I knew it was disturbing him, and then two, he couldn't come to mine because he just couldn't. And then from there, I was also starting to go through postpartum depression, and I thankfully like noticed, and I went for help, and that I was going for that. And then our focus from like Santi's birthday till August was just to get my dad to Portugal so he could see his mum. We were so determined, me and my sisters, like we fighted. You know, you had to get a fit to fly test to be able to go, and luckily I was on maternity, so all the appointments he needed to go to, so like my older sister would like call all the places, because my house, my reception is terrible, so I couldn't ever really call anyone, because Letty was a baby that, let me tell you, she was a tough newborn. So I pretty much just stayed at home because I just physically didn't want to go out, because I used to feel very anxious, and then I wasn't going through a really great time. So yeah, I feel like the only highlight that I can remember like in that period after having Letty was actually the mum group I made, and like the times we met up, even though unfortunately during going back to work I couldn't continue it, but it was a really big highlight for me. I think it was something that I never thought I would do, and I did, so I'm so proud of myself of coming out of my comfort zone, and it really did help me. And then yeah, it was just our focus. We managed to take him on holidays. I went on a very, very long holiday with Ivan and the kids, which was amazing. Like I really, really needed it, even though it was a bit too long, but it was so lovely. But while we were on holidays, me and Ivan done 2 years wedding anniversary. We actually went away to a lovely hotel in Spain, but away, it was about like an hour and a bit away from where Ivan's from in Spain, and we were having a lovely time. I get a phone call from my sister saying that obviously Dad went into hospital in Portugal. He was still in Portugal at this time because he just wasn't feeling well. We were very used to this because when he was here in the UK, it was a constant. Like every 2 weeks he was in doctors. My dad was literally on steroids and antibiotics all the time. So Ivan was amazing, and he was literally just like, look, let's go to Portugal, let's go and see your dad. We cutted our little mini honeymoon short, and we went off to Portugal. I went to get my dad at hospital, and the doctor did say that my dad was really, really bad. What she explained to us is basically all these ulcers he was getting in his legs was like fluids that were basically trapped all around his body. And if you know, when you get fluids, it means that your heart is just not pumping well, so it's building up all this fluid. And that's what basically my dad was constantly getting, fluids in his lungs. She was like, his fluids are so bad that he's even got it in his belly, and if it was for me, I would make him stay. The only problem is my dad was flying out literally 2 days after he was discharged, and I know, and looking at my dad, I knew he wanted to stay. I could see it in my dad's face, but at the same time he was like, no, like I need to fly back. Like he was doing it in order to, because he was worried that financially, you know, they had to come back, they had to pay another ticket. Like he was anxious about that. But then he made the decision to leave, and we brought them because they got tickets to Spain instead of Portugal just because they were cheaper. So we drove them back to where they were going from, which was Spain, to the airport, and after went back to London. But he did have a letter where it was like, you need to go, from the doctors in Portugal. Like the minute he landed, he had to go to hospital, and that's what he did. My mum took him straight to hospital. He was there for I think a few days, if I'm not mistaken, probably like a week and a bit. So many times he's gone to hospital, so it's hard for me to remember, but he was there for a bit. He got better, he came home. After that, it was just a constant. He was always breathless, he was always unwell. It was really, really tough. Like at this point, he already had the hospital bed, and he also had a carer at home that would come twice a day to basically, in the morning, bath my dad, wash my dad, because my dad couldn't go upstairs and have a bath. Like my dad didn't see his bedroom for literally a whole year and a half. From the minute he had the collapse lung all the way till his day that he died, he never saw his upstairs anymore. He was downstairs in a hospital bed, and the carer came, and honestly give a lot of credit to him, because my dad would not let anyone wash or bath him, even in a hospital. My mum had to always go there and do that, because he had such a big pride. He couldn't ever allow no one else to do it, and he allowed this carer to do it, so we were so grateful. Sorry. So that continues, and then in November was when things got bad. In November, I'm not sure roughly was, I know it was after Evan's birthday for a fact, because I remember we celebrated Evan's birthday. His birthday's on the 7th of November. We celebrated it at my mum's house, because obviously my dad couldn't come, so we went there, we cut the cake. And I remember him going into hospital, and I even was getting my 2 back tooth removed. If you guys follow me, you remember I got 2 teeth removed on the same day, and he went into hospital, and my mum was with the kids. I was anxious. I was like, I'm so sorry, like, I didn't know what to do. But then I feel like, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he went to get, I don't remember. But yeah, he went into hospital, and literally my sister was like, don't bother, calm down. Literally, they said that dad just got fluids. He's going to stay for a few days and he should be fine. And that's what we thought was going to happen. But straight away, when I went to visit my dad the following weekend, I don't know if it was the following weekend or during the week, I'm not too sure. I was already working at this point, so I'm not too sure. It's probably on the weekend. I was finding it quite strange. One, he was in the, I don't know if anyone knows King's College, but you've got like the old hospital, and then you've got the more new one, the Jubilee, I think it's Jubilee building. That's the building he was in, which he never used to be. So already I was a bit like, oh, that's weird. And then the ward he was in a room where it had a fridge in it. It was a massive room. I mean, like, you know the rooms where you give birth in, well, the King's College rooms that we give birth in, because the St Mary ones are tiny, but it was a massive room. Like, it was huge. And I was already like, okay, so his bed was quite bigger than usual as well. So I was like, okay, but I just thought, you know what, they don't have spaces, whatever. And it's quite funny, because the first time that in 2020, when he had this pneumonia, that was actually the first ward they put him in when he had suspicions that he had COVID. So they isolated him in that room. That was one of their first COVID wards. And I was like, oh, okay, this is bizarre. Nothing ever was told to us, and this is to make clear, nothing ever was told to us that he had a pneumonia or nothing. Nothing was ever told to us. The only thing that they did say is that the viral infection he had was viral, so no antibiotics would have worked for it. His body had to basically fight it. They were going to give him antibiotics anyway, so it didn't develop to anything worse, but it wouldn't have helped. The only thing this period was really strange for me was because, honestly, like, every time my dad went into hospital, 1, he used to get better after a few days. 2, the doctors used to always call us. We used to be like, call us, because he doesn't understand English. Call us, let us know what's going on. We hardly used to ever get calls. He never, like, when he used to go to hospital, they used to do x-rays on him like every day, or one day yes, day no. And this time, nothing of that was happening. But just to clarify as well, before my dad went into hospital, he already had 2 incidents at home where he basically wet himself, and he wasn't aware of it. And silly like I am, research it, and it does actually state that when your body is slowly, like when you're going through something and your body is slowly stopping, that is one of the first signs. My dad also fell at home twice without realizing. He couldn't really tell us how he felt. Like, we're like, Dad, what happened? He's like, oh, I don't know, or I tripped it. He didn't really ever know, and I feel like he knew he didn't know, and he was just saying. And then in hospital we had falls as well. I'll come back to that in a second, but yeah, so that happened. He was in hospital, they were treating him, and he was just never getting better. And I remember having a conversation with my sister Chris and in the car, and we were just like, this is not normal. Like, why is he not getting better? And I remember my sister Chris always being very positive. Like, if it was something serious, the doctors would have told us by now. Like, they wouldn't have waited this long. Like, they would have said something. And I actually agreed to that. I was like, yeah, that's true. I'm sure they would have said something, because they always have. But then we came to hear from my mum that he had a Portuguese interpreter out of nowhere that used to be there with the doctors with my dad. And every time we used to ask my dad, oh, Dad, what did the doctor say? He used to be like, oh, they just said that my heart is weak. That was the main things he would tell us. My heart is weak. And I used to always be like, okay, yeah, we kind of know that. Obviously, we know that, you know. So we always found that bizarre. Yeah, then comes, and then it was just always, so my dad wasn't there for a full month. He was about 3 weeks and a bit, I would say. then every weekend, obviously I went to see my dad. During the week I was obviously here because I worked and stuff like that, and then I would call my mum. That's how he was. I used to call him. Sometimes he used to answer, sometimes he didn't. The good thing is that the hospital he was at actually had kind of good reception, so it was quite easier to contact him, which when he used to go to the old one you would never get reception. And bless him, he started to know how to like, and then if he needed anything sometimes he would call us. So yeah, so then it was really weird because he started to like ask my mom, for instance, like, stay with me, like, why are you going home? Like, he was just acting much more different than he normally does when he, don't get me wrong, when my dad used to be unwell, he was hard work. Like, for my sister, I remember living with them before I moved out. He was already hard work some days, and I used to feel so bad for my mom and my sister because I know they used to be so drained and so exhausted, because there was days that it was really rough and tough, like really rough and tough. And 2023 was a year that whew. But after that, there was the first week of December, so the Sunday before he passed away. So he passed away on a Tuesday, the 5th of December. The weekend before that, on Saturday, went to see him. Sunday, we went to Old MacDonald's farm for the Christmas event. Already that day felt really gloomy. It felt really weird. It felt really different. I don't know what it was at the time. I didn't know, but it felt really strange. And we went. My mum was meant to go. She didn't. My mum was getting this intuition. She was like, I'm gonna go and be with your dad. I'm gonna go and watch him. She's done that. She went. She gave him a bath. Like, they just done what they had to do. And then my mum called us. Mum's like, oh, he seems much better. She called us with him, and then she called us up and she's like, yeah, he seems much better. I just came home now. I'm gonna rest a little bit. And then on our way back from the Old MacDonald's farm, me and my sister and the two kids were in one car, and no, it was me and my sister. I don't even recall now. I know Ivan had the kids, so I'm not too sure. Anyway, then we got a phone call from the hospital basically saying that my dad had fallen, and for us to ask him, like, did he hit his head, things like that. And then my sister was like, Patricia, let's just go there, let's just see how he is, let's see. So we made our way, instead of going home, we went straight down to King's College where he was. And when we got in, he was in the bed, and there was about like 6 doctors all around him. And he was literally just laying back, breathing really heavily. And I just recall him like looking at the door and like just going like this, like with his hand, and then looking the other way. And the doctor basically saying to us, could you guys wait outside? We are the critical care team. Could you just wait outside? And there was a lady dressed in red, and they like specialize in taking bloods, and they're like specialize in like there's people that are like really hard. And again, when your body's slowly deteriorating, it's really hard to get blood from you because the blood starts getting clogged. And that was happening to my dad. But obviously at that point we didn't know. Like, I only found out this stuff after he passed away because I just done research. Then that happened, and the doctor came and spoke to me, my sister, and was like, oh, your dad fell, his oxygen levels dropped really dramatically. So they called us because like they were worried that we would obviously have to, basically my dad could never get incubated. Like, my dad could never get into a coma. Like, he couldn't, his lungs wouldn't cope, his heart wouldn't cope. And also my dad had signed already that he wouldn't want to be resuscitated. So that happened, and then we went in the room with him, and I was like, Dad, so what happened? Like, we were asking, are you okay? And then he was just like, oh yeah, I just felt like I just went to the toilet. I was like, Dad, but you could have waited for them to come and help you. He was like, oh, they're taking too long, I just went, blah blah blah. And he was in a closed room, and then that's when they told us that we'll probably have to move him to an open room so that everyone could see him, all the doctors could see him. And that's what they did the following Monday. But he was just like, and I was like, Dad, but what have the doctor? He just says, oh, they just say my heart is weak. And I'm like, oh, okay, keep hearing this. And they just kept telling us that they were doing x-rays on him. Like, it was just all really strange. Like, I don't want to say this, but I believe that my dad decided to stop treatment and not tell us. I don't know if it's right, I don't know if it's wrong. We will never find out, because if he asks that to be confidential, we will never know. But I just this time it was just really strange. So that happened, and then Chris was like, I'm not comfortable leaving him, he hasn't even had food. We were like, Dad, did you eat? He was like, no, they haven't bring me dinner. And we're like, why haven't they bringing you dinner? It was already like super late. They normally bring dinner around 6. This was already like 7:30, 8 o'clock. So obviously I went, I was like, is my dad gonna have dinner? And then they bring his dinner, and his dinner was literally pureed, like literally like a kid's food. And me and Chris was like, why is his food like this? My dad literally had 2 spoons. And I'll never forget this, because I remember putting up a post of him on Instagram, because a lot of people didn't know what was going on with my dad at that point. Because I'm gonna be honest, I tried to avoid talking about the subject because I knew what was coming, and I just thought avoiding the subject will make it not happen. So I just kept avoiding like putting anything of him, because I'm quite an open book. Like, whoever follows me knows I put everything up. Like, that's just who I am, and that's why I started the YouTube, and that's why I started doing what I did. And then I put up a post, and I just remember him saying, oh, I don't want him. And I was like, you don't want to drink, Dad? He said no. And then he just literally turned, and he had like a little blanket like this, and he turned and he just put the blankets like, put it on my back because I'm cold. And I remember just putting it on his back, and he just turned over and he just went to sleep. And we're like, okay, Dad, we're gonna go now. He's like, just nodded. We then left. I came home to my mum's house, got the kids, and my mum was like really worried. You could see in her face, she was like really panicky and really worried. We just like to my mum, oh, and she was like, oh, I'm gonna go there in the morning, like I'm gonna go there. My mum wasn't working at the time, so my mum Monday morning went there. I went to work. I still remember we had like a Christmas party at my work. Even my work colleagues, no one knew what was going on because I just avoided the subject. Then I remember just telling my manager, I was like, oh, just to let you know that this is happening. But this was like a week before. I'm like, look, just to let you know that if I have to go, I have to go. That Monday, I came home, I spoke to my dad on the phone. He got to speak to Santi, see Santi. And then my mum was there, my godmother was there, my sister, my 2 sisters were there, my cousin, like a lot of people were there. And apparently he was like really like funny, like doing jokes and everything. But my sister said that he was, you could see already like, he was already like fully naked with just a sheet and stuff. But again, no conversation to us about him. Like, they just literally said to my sister that like, you know, his heart was weak, and then that his infection like wasn't kind of going, but that his blood test seemed to come back okay. So they were happy with what was happening. Anyway, that Monday, I don't know what gave me, like I was in the sitting room and I was like, oh, I haven't took no Christmas pictures of Letty. I'm gonna do that now. So I dressed her little PJs on. I was taking like Christmas pictures of her, because I had this thing of saving all my like Santi's outfits to dress on Letty. So I did that, and I remember just turning to Eva and saying, I felt really weird that, and I was like, Eva, I'm gonna go to bed because I don't know, I feel quite weird. So even I think even staying in the police station, I came to bed, I fell asleep, and I was sleeping, and from then my sister literally calls me. It was around, I think it was around 4 o'clock. She got the call at 3:15 from doctor. She called me. I can't remember if it was 3:30 or 4:30. And I remember, like, I'm a very light sleeper, but when that phone rang, it was really weird. It was like an out of body experience. I just picked the phone up, and because I saw, like, she does not call me throughout the night. She does not do that. And I don't know why, but I felt like the kids were at my mum's house. I don't know, so I picked up the phone and I was like, hello. She was like, and my sister was already crying. She was like, babe, the doctors have just called. Dad's really, really bad, and they suggest that we go and see him. And I remember just saying to her, okay, because I was so out of it. I was just like, what? And Ivan, that is the like strongest deep sleeper you can meet. Like, a train could hit us and he wouldn't wake up. Literally just got up, turned to me and was like, do I need to call my parents? And I was like, yes. And then he didn't even ask. He just hugged me, and I was like, my sister just said my dad's really bad. We need to go and see him. So we got ready. His parents were here in like 10 minutes, bless them. They stayed with the kids. We made our way. I left already everything ready for them to go to nursery. I always do the day before. So I was like, if we're not here by like this time, just take them to nursery. Just let them go and have a normal day like they normally do. I'll ask for them to stay a longer day because they normally leave at 2. We went to my mum's. Obviously my mum was already sad, crying, and then we made our way to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, when it freaking hit me like a rock. I remember walking through those corridors. I just couldn't even believe it. I was like, no, I'm gonna see him. He's gonna be sitting on the chair, like it's gonna be okay. I remember getting into the bed where he was, and the first impact of seeing him, the way he was, I was like, this is not fair. This is not fair on him. This is not fair on anyone, but especially him. He was like naked, only with a cloth. And he had these 2 massive tubes on his nose. He was like on 100% oxygen. There was even this little paper on his table saying on 100% oxygen. Thank you, it said on the paper. And then obviously, you know, the doctors come round in the morning, and we obviously talked to, they were like, oh, the doctors will come and talk to you. There was this such a lovely nurse that she started her shift in the morning, so we got there quite early. It was like, I think it was like 8 o'clock, 8:30. She came in and she was like, Manuel Macedo. She was like, what? She was off shift for 3 days. Bless her, she was there from the whole time that we got there to the time my dad passed away. She was like, I literally saw him last Friday. I left him, he was sitting on the chair, he was talking, he even used to make me laugh with his walking stick. I can't believe he's like this, what the hell happened? Even she was confused, but like, she was so confused. She was like, this is just impossible, like, he was just fine a few days ago. And then the doctors came. We were like taking turns because we couldn't obviously all be there, so my mum was upstairs and stuff, and we just all taking turns. And one of my mum friends took her to have a coffee, and me and my sister Chris were there. And then doctors came, and I texted Eva and told Sarah to come up because the doctors are here. So the 3 of us were there, and the 3 of us basically had spoken before. We just said, look, if they come to us, like what? And we just all knew one thing: we didn't want him to suffer, and we just wanted him to rest and to just not be in any more pain. That's one thing we knew. He had suffered way too much all those years. We just didn't want to see him in any more pain or agony. So when the doctors came, they said to us, you know, his infection's really bad, his heart is really weak, he's not showing any improvements, and yeah, that basically his body couldn't fight the viral infection he had. And then they basically said, yeah, there was nothing else they could do. They had done everything they could. And then they just said, and then I remember my sister Sarah asking them, how long do you think he has? And I just remember him saying, it's so hard to predict, so everyone is different, but, and my sister said to him weeks, and he was like, I would give it hours to a day. When he said that, I'm just glad that he was sleeping. So I don't think he heard, I don't know if it wasn't because that oxygen is so strong that it kind of, it's like having gas in it. It makes you like in and out of a lot of like your consciousness basically. And what had happened to my dad was basically he went into cardiac arrest during the night before they called my sister, and they managed to like keep him alive. And then obviously they said that they wouldn't be able to resuscitate him or put him in coma or sedate him, so they were like, there was nothing else they could do for him. So that's what happened. After they had that conversation with us, they were like, we're gonna call you the parent, I forgot what it's called, but the team that comes when someone's passing away. He's gonna come, he's gonna talk to you guys and speak for the next procedures. The team came, it was a man, bless him, and he was just basically telling us, you know, the oxygen and that is on is very strong, and you know, it's not making him comfortable, it's just giving him pain. The antibiotics that the drip that they've given him is basically not doing anything anymore because his kidneys, nothing is functioning, so it's just gonna end up like hurting him inside because it's just, yeah, it's not doing anything to him. So they said they were going to stop that and put a slow fluid painkiller through his veins. Yeah, so that's what they were going to do. So that's what they did, they stopped that. And then they just said to us, like, is there anything they could help us with? And we just asked if you could have a separate room and not be in a room where he was with like everyone. So this was about 3 o'clock-ish, 2 o'clock-ish, 3. And then he finally, and then we all just like start taking turns. People came obviously to see him, and for most people it was a massive shock, seeing my dad, how he was that day. And then it was around 6:30, they changed him to a room. And when he got changed to his room, like, it was just like from like here to like a room here, and that whole, like, when they were dragging him from that room to the other room, it was like everyone was there, like there was so many people there, like our family and stuff, and we all just saw him getting wheeled over. And when it did, he literally just lifted his head and looked at everyone, and then he went back down again, and then they put him in the room, and then we all were in there, like it was literally like a whole room full of people. And at this point I thought, oh, you know, like some people end up going home now and stuff, and I just thought it was going to be a long night. I had never thought he was going to pass away within an hour and a half of putting him in that room. Then they took out the big oxygen to put a normal oxygen. And this is the part that kills me, because when that happened, like when they changed him to his normal oxygen, so there's just the normal tube that, you know, mainly people use, and the one that he used at home, he turned to my sister Chris, and he's like to my sister, call the doctors because I'm getting better. He thought that because they changed his oxygen, he thought he was getting better. So that we was all there, like we all tried to like liven up the mood and obviously not be sad. But I'm so proud of myself, because the whole time I was there I didn't shed one tear. I was so strong. Maybe a bit in denial, I don't know, but I was so strong while I was in there. I even brushed his hair. I went to get a brush and I was like, Dad, like, look at your hair, like you can't be like this. And I remember brushing, he lifted his head and I brushed the back of his head. And the one question I was really scared to ask him, because I just didn't want to hear it, was asking him, saying, who am I? And him not knowing who I was. So I avoided that question to the max. I don't know if he knew who I was, because he didn't say my name once while I was there. So I don't know, but maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. I'd rather not know, because if he had said to me, no, I don't know who you are, I think he would have broken me. So I never asked him that question, but I think he did. And there was this one time, my dad used to love a good Red Bull. This was before he got really, really sick. And I opened a can of Red Bull. So he couldn't swallow anymore, because they told us his infection was already up to his throat. So they gave us like a cup, and he had a sponge at the end of like this little thing. And we could only like wet his mouth. He was very, very thirsty, and he always wanted to take his clothes off, because this was the fever. And I opened the can of Coke, and he turned to me and he was like, give me some. Like, my dad was talking the whole time before he died, like the whole hour. He was just so talkative. Like, since he changed the oxygen, he was just so much more awake. He was making little like jokes and stuff. He even said to my sister, like, because instead of giving him the Red Bull, I gave him a bit of iced tea, because I don't know why I thought the Red Bull was gonna harm him. Like, nothing could have been worse than what was happening to him already, but I don't know, I just didn't want to give him the Red Bull, so I gave him a bit of iced tea. And he turned to me and he goes, no, that's iced tea. He literally said to me what it was, and he was like, iced tea is not good for your diabetes. Like, he was really talking to us. And then I just remember sitting at the end of the table on a chair. My mum comes in, and my mum was talking to him, and my mum was just crying her eyes out, and people were like to her, don't cry. Like, everyone was still there. The only persons I had left was my cousin, my younger cousin, both of my cousins, my godmother's daughters, the two young ones they had left, my godmother. So everyone else was there. Everyone was there from the beginning. Sisters, my niece Eva, and one of my older cousins, my cousin Anna, who is literally like, my dad was literally a dad to her. We were all there, and I just thought that he was gonna wait for everyone to leave, but he didn't. And my mum, and I remember before I sat down in the chair, he was like moaning about the lights, and I was like, Dad, do you want me to dim the lights down? Like, do you want me to put the lights on? He's like, yes, please. I turned the lights down, and then he was telling my mom, oh, you're so annoying. And then my mom was just trying to like make things funny, and then he remember him turning to my mom like, guys, go to bed, you guys got work tomorrow, just please leave both doors open. I think there he thought he was at home, because at home he always had a window and a door open, so I think there he thought he was at home. And I just remember sitting on the chair and I had my phone in my hand, and I remember looking at my mum, and my mum just said, girls, come, because I know he's going, he's taking his last breaths. I don't know how my mum knew. And I just remember getting up, sitting at the bottom of the table, like just on one bum cheek, and holding his hand and looking at him. And I just remember him looking at my mum, turning his head back, and he was having his last moments. It was like he was having basically a heart attack, like his heart was stopping. But before that, he was telling me his leg was hurting, and that's really signs of like a little, like your body stopping. And I was massaging his legs, and then he just put his head back, and I just held his hand, and I was just like, I just remember my older sister, she was standing next to me. Poor Chris, she just froze, she didn't know what to do. And I just remember telling them, girl, like, my sister was there, but then I also remember my sister Chris, Sarah, running out, crying. And then I just remember saying, like, Chris, come and see how peacefully he's going, just can't be next to him. But she just froze. And then I just remember him holding my, he was holding my hand so tight, and then all of a sudden it just, nothing, like, and then I was holding on, like, thinking he might like hold it back, but that was it. You know, but saying to my mom, just tell him you will be okay. He was always really scared of my mom alone. He used to always say, oh, the day I die, I feel sorry for you being here by yourself. And I just remember saying to my mom, tell him you'll be okay. And my mom turns to him and says, if you have to go, go. If you have to let go, just go, I'll be okay. I swear to God, the minute she said that, he took his last breath, and that was it. My dad went from talking to us and then 2 minutes gone. And that's just the thing till today traumatizes me the most, is how much we are nothing in this world. We're 1 minute here and the next we're just gone. We're nothing. That was literally my dad. And then obviously loads of madness happened. It was so bad. Then I remember the doctor coming in, checking his pulse, looking at me and nodding, basically saying there was no pulse, and then went over to where my mum was, and my neighbour was there next to her, touching outside of the pulse and saying no, that like there was no pulse. And that was it. That was the end of a life for my dad. Like, just like that, I stayed without my dad. It was so dramatic, but at the same time I wouldn't have wanted it any other way, because he had everyone who loved him that whole year, who cared about him that whole year, who always came to visit him, who were always there even for us. Like, everyone that was there for him in that past year, all the people that were there for him were there surrounding him when he took his last breath. And that for me was just the way he wanted to go. My dad always loved a house full of people, even though he used to moan, and that's how we went with a house full of people. And then we stayed there with him for a few hours. I was just holding his hand, I was kissing his head. How much I missed just his skin. And then we had a 7-day mass, and then what's crazy for me is that, like, you're there with them and all of a sudden you just need to go home and just act like nothing has happened. They just put him in a bag. They don't let you see him roll off in the bag. They say it's too painful, so they always make sure that you leave the hospital. But it was so hard, that journey home. And then I wish I could have stayed with my sister, but I had the kids to go back to as well, so I had to come home. And the worst thing was waking up the next morning, having to dress the kids and be happy, and all I wanted to do was just cry. It was so hard. I think going through grief, being a mom of such young children, is one of the hardest things I have ever experienced in my life to the day of today. It is so hard. And the fact that, like, Santi knew who he was, and you know, we can't really explain what happened to him obviously when he gets older, but it's just so hard. It's just so hard. And then I wanted the Christmas to be special because it was Letty's first Christmas, but my heart was so broken. It was just so hard. I'd still try to make it as special as possible, but yeah, it was really hard. We then had a 7-day mass for him. It's basically, in our culture, we do a 7-day mass and religion, and then we also, here in the UK, and then we also did his casket mass, where his casket was present and they opened it. So his 7-day was on a Tuesday, and then on Thursday he had that, so it was like a UK funeral, and then he was sent off to Portugal, where he had his actual like burial, where he's from, in Portugal. So yeah, that was it. That's my story. That's how I lost my dad. And then when we got his death certificate, it said that he died with bronchopneumonia. That's what he died from. So to going from not knowing what he had, for him dying with something that was clearly visual, was just so confusing to us. But it is what it is. We're not gonna even go down that road. It was his destiny and that was his pathway. But yeah, I'm just so grateful that I spent so much time with them. Like, now I look back, my whole weekends of 2023 was literally at my parents' house. Every weekend, Saturday, Sunday, I used to go shopping with my mum on Saturday, Sunday I would just be there. And I'm so thankful I did that, because I just got to be there. Even if he wasn't in a mood, we were there, you know. I was there in the house with him. He had his daughter there with him, and I can only imagine how that feels, because having my kids around me makes me feel so full. So I'm so glad that I did that. I'm so glad that a lot of, even when I was tired and exhausted, all I wanted to do was be at home, I went and I was the daughter, and I was a present daughter, and I was there. I did everything I could. Yeah, and I'm just so thankful for that, and I hope I made him proud, and I hope he is proud of me. And yeah, now it's just about knowing how to deal with it. Grief you will never get over. It never hurts less. It's always painful, and every day hurts more. But the way I try to deal with it is just thinking about the good memories we have with him. Every time I'm around my mum and everything, we just try to laugh about the good stuff, because that's the only thing we can do now. And it's so nice that it hurts. Honestly, I know that sounds weird, but the fact that it hurts, it means that he was special. And that's how I want it to be. I never want it to stop hurting, because if it stops hurting, it means that I don't care. And I do. I remember on the day, I think it was the 7-day mass, turning to Ivan and saying to Ivan, is it weird that I'm not crying? And Ivan was like, no, don't feel bad that you're not crying. I'm like, why do I not cry? Like, I'm so sad, but I can't cry. He was like, that's not a bad thing. But let me tell you that, boy, do I cry. It was just that day, I just couldn't cry. There was no tears coming out of me. I don't know what it was that day of the church. Yeah, the day of his casket, then that day was different. That hit me hard. And there's one thing that always stays in my memory, was when they opened the casket, I went and I kissed him. And that's the vision I have of him, and in a way I kind of regret doing that, because I had the vision of him where he was just so peacefully sleeping. He even looked happy. And now I always have that vision of him being cold, freezing cold. I'm not going to go into too much detail, because yeah, I don't want it to be triggering for anyone, but it was hard. It was really hard. It still is. It always will be. The day we buried him was But I do want to take this chance to thank every single person who was there for me, who was there for my family, who checked up on me every day. Trust me, I know those people, the people that text me every day, the people that make sure I was okay every day, to people who literally till today will message me and ask me how I am. You guys do not understand how grateful I am, and I promise you guys that I will never ever forget that. I won't ever forget how I felt and who was there for me at that moment. Trust me, I will never forget. The whole 2023 was not easy for me. The only highlight of 2023 was Letty and Santi's turning 1. But apart from that, 2023 was a horrible year. It was a year that I lost so much. I lost myself. I lost my granddad in July. I lost my dad in December. I lost so many friends. I just noticed that I was not important to people like how important they were to me, and it was just a horrible year. If there's a year that I wish I could just take away, it's 2023. I'm just so upset that my daughter was born on that year, because you're such a horrible year, and I hate saying this because she was born in it, but it was horrendous. And I know that it will always be a year that will be without memory, and it just wasn't a nice year. But I know he's up there. I know he's looking after me. I know he's taking care of me. There's so many days and there's so many signs that my dad say, like, I wish I could explain it all to you guys, but you guys will have no idea what I'm talking about. But there's so many days I'm like, that's so him doing that. It's so him. Thank you, man, is starting a new job, an amazing new job, and I know, and a job that we never thought he would get, and I know it's him. I know it's him that's doing that. I know it. If there was one person that believed in Evan and when Evan started, because Evan drives, right? And Evan didn't take the easy pathway that was uni, not easy, but you know, a pathway that everyone takes uni. He didn't take that. He wasn't that person, but Evan is so clever and he's so intellectual. He just never took that path, and a lot of people criticised him, a lot of people turned his face on him, and my dad never. My dad used to always be like, trust me, driving is his job, driving is his job, Even. And I know that this is him. I know it. Just there's so many little things that I know it's him. 100% know he's up there and he's helping as much as he possibly can, and I just love and miss him so much, and I just wish I just knew if he was okay, if he was happy, but I'm never gonna know, so there's nothing I can do. But I just want to give a shout out to any me that's going through what I'm going through. You're not alone. It's painful. I know exactly what you're feeling, but just let me tell you that there is better days. There's going to be better days, and every day you're going to learn to remember him, not crying, but in a positive, lovely way. And it's going to hurt. Let it hurt. It's good that it hurts. And yeah, we are so strong, and they're always there looking out for us, and that's how we have to think. We can't think it any other way, or else we will go crazy. But yeah, I just want to say thank you guys all so much for everything, and thank you for watching this video. I just wanted to put this video because there's so much nice things coming up, and I just felt like I had to be honest with you guys and let you guys know that I am going through a hard time. I'm gonna keep fighting. I will never stop, and I know my dad's there for me, and I just want to send my love to everyone who might be going through grief. It's not easy, it's really hard. And yeah, just thank you guys all so much for watching, and I really hope you guys stay. I plan on really fighting for my dreams and chasing for my dreams, because if there's one thing that it taught me of losing my dad, was that every day is a beautiful day, and every day is about fighting for what you really want. Life is too short to worry and stress and worry about silly things. Fight for what you want, push for what you want, and I know that I'm gonna get there. I know I am, and that's what I work for every day. So thank you guys all so much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.